The distress signal. The skies above Reala 4 were once clear and calm. The twin moons used to cast a soft glow across the blue grass fields, and children of the colony would play until dusk. But now, fires lit the sky, and screams echoed through the mountains. Laro stood inside the command tower, gripping the console tightly. His small hands trembled, not from fear, but from the helplessness that came with watching his world fall apart. "They're breaching the outer wall," someone called. "Third barrier is down." Laro's commander barked orders, but the panic in the room was growing. These raiders weren't like the usual pirates. They came fast, with armored ships and strange weapons. Their goal wasn't loot, it was destruction, the offer. Colony had no real military. Only local guards and defense drones, none of which had lasted more than minutes. The Council had always believed peace would protect them. They were wrong. "We've sent out the distress call," the communications officer said. "All known allied systems, all languages, all channels." Laro turned to him. "Has anyone responded?" The officer shook his head. No reply. Nothing. The truth hit hard. Reala 4 was alone. Laro took a shaky breath. He wasn't a soldier. He was a junior technician, just good with systems. But in this moment, even the smallest hands were needed. He ran to the lower terminals and helped reset the emergency beacons. Maybe, just maybe, someone would hear them. As the hours passed, the situation only worsened. Fires spread through the lower city. Life support in some sections failed. People tried to flee, but the skyports were already lost. By the third night, the raiders were preparing to break into the main habitat dome. Laro sat near a window, staring at the dark sky. "Is this how it ends?" he whispered. That's when the scanner beeped. At first, no one noticed. The sounds of alerts had been constant for days, but this tone was different. Laro stood and looked at the long-range screen. His eyes widened. "Ships," he said softly. The commander walked over, confused. "What kind of ships?" Laro zoomed in. "Not raiders. These are massive, black hulls, glowing engines. There's a whole fleet, dropping out of hyperspace." The room fell silent. Everyone leaned in. One by one, the ships emerged from the dark, a line of giants forming above the planet. One of the analysts gasped. "Wait, those designs, I've seen them in old records." Another whispered, "It's Earth. That's Earth's military fleet." The council members rushed in, confused and panicked. "Earth, are you sure?" "Yes," Laro confirmed. "Their signal just registered on our system." "But we didn't call Earth directly," someone said. "They haven't answered any galactic call in years." Laro stared at the lead ship. It hovered in orbit, casting a long shadow across the colony. The design was unlike anything they had seen. Sharp edges, no colors, no banners. Just quiet power. Then a voice echoed through the room's speakers. "This is Earth Command. We received your call. Prepare for immediate intervention." There was no introduction, no pleasantries, just those words. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. One of them whispered, "We expected medics, maybe supply ships, not this." Another asked, "What kind of help is this?" Laro didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the sky. He watched as the lead Earth ship slowly turned, aiming directly at the largest raider cruiser approaching the colony. There was a pause. Then, the Earth ship began to descend. To be continued in Part 2. The arrival of Earth's fleet. The arrival of Earth's fleet. The Earth fleet didn't make a showy entrance. No music, no banners, no shining lights. Just silent giants descending through the upper atmosphere. There were over a dozen of them, black, sharp-edged, and silent. As they came closer, their scale became clear. Each ship was the size of a city, block, covered in smooth, dark plating and strange blue lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. In the command tower of Reala 4, everyone watched the screens in stunned silence. Laro felt a chill crawl down his back. I thought Earth was a peaceful world. One of the council members stepped forward. They were once, before they went silent, before they stopped sending delegates to the Galactic Council. The comms officer flinched as a new signal came through. Incoming wide-range broadcast from Earth's lead ship. The voice came again, calm, cold. Hostile forces detected. Defense mode activated. Non-combatants, stay clear. On the outer scanners, the raider ships, easily outnumbering the Earth fleet, began to shift position. They moved into attack formations. Whoever commanded them must have seen the Earth ships as just another threat to crush. They had no idea what was coming. From the center of Earth's formation, a single ship broke away. Its engines flared and it darted toward the raider flagship. No support, no backup, just one ship. Why is it going alone? One officer asked. Laro leaned forward, heart racing. Maybe it doesn't need help. Then came the first shot. A beam of pure white light erupted from the Earthship's front cannon. It didn't explode. It didn't make noise. It simply passed through the raider flagship like a blade through paper. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the raider ship folded in on itself, metal crumpling, lights going dark. Within seconds, it was gone. Gasps filled the command room. The council members backed away from the screen. That was impossible, someone whispered. It wasn't even a missile, another said. It just cut through it. The rest of Earth's ships moved. They spread out with precise, quiet movements. There was no panic, no rush. Each ship seemed to already know its position, and then they opened fire. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. Small drones shot out of hangars and zipped between the raider ships. Missiles didn't explode. They entered the enemy vessels and melted their cores. Some of the Earth ships didn't even use weapons. They simply sent out waves of interference that shut the raiders down mid-flight. The battlefield turned silent. In the tower, Laro watched, stunned. They're not fighting, he said. They're cleaning. The battle lasted only 12 minutes. 12 minutes to destroy over 30 raider ships. The last few tried to run. They didn't make it far. A few Earth ships broke formation and began descending toward the surface. These were smaller, but still massive. Their engines didn't roar. They hummed, low and steady. They landed just outside the main dome. A soft ping echoed from the comm console. Laro walked over and pressed it. A human face appeared on the screen, calm, serious, wearing a dark uniform with no visible rank. Commander Kyle, Earth Defense Fleet, we've neutralized the threat. Request permission to assist with planetary recovery. One of the council members stepped forward nervously. You're not here to occupy us? Kyle didn't blink. You asked for help. We helped. But why bring warships? Kyle's expression didn't change. Because the last time Earth sent peacekeepers, they didn't return. No one spoke. Kyle nodded once. Prepare your wounded. We'll land medics and engineers within the hour. The screen went dark. Laro whispered. They didn't come to make friends. They came to make sure no one else dies. Outside, the black ship stood silent, guarding the broken horizon. Earth had answered the call, and nothing would be the same again. To be continued in Part 3, Fire from the Sky. Fire from the sky. The sun rose over Riala 4, but its light was dull compared to the glow from the wreckage still burning in orbit. Pieces of raider ships drifted across the sky like silent tombstones. Laro stood near the colony's landing bay, staring at the Earth ships that had touched down during the night. They didn't look like rescue ships. There were no soft edges or friendly colors, just steel, shadows, and purpose. The humans emerged slowly, in dark armor that shimmered with faint blue light. Their helmets were off, revealing faces that looked calm, but tired. These weren't young recruits. These were people who had seen too many battles. One of them walked toward Laro. He was tall, clean-cut, with sharp eyes that scanned everything. I'm Kyle, the man said simply. We're here to help. Show us the injured. Laro nodded and led him toward the inner dome. Along the way, Kyle gave short commands to his team. Medics ran toward the triage centers with silent urgency. Engineers began scanning broken support, beams and damaged power systems. There was no panic, no confusion, just focus. In the command tower, the council watched the humans from the windows. They move like machines, one said. They fight like ghosts, another added. They never even raise their voices. An older council member frowned. This is not how help is supposed to look. This is war dressed as aid. Laro overheard them but said nothing. He had seen the humans save dozens of children trapped under debris last night. He had watched as one human medic knelt beside an alien child, offering water and comfort with no words. They weren't heartless. They were just different. Later that evening, Laro stood with Kyle near a damaged energy core. The engineers had already set up a replacement in less than 2 hours. You came fast, Laro said. You knew what to do. Kyle didn't look, away from his scanner. We've seen this before. Where? Kyle paused. 10 years ago, a colony like this one sent out a call for help. We responded late. By the time we arrived, it was a graveyard. Laro swallowed hard. That's when you changed? Kyle nodded. That's when Earth decided. If someone calls for help, we come with everything. But why not send peace envoys first? Kyle turned to him. Because peace doesn't stop orbital strikes. Kindness doesn't block plasma fire. And hoping for mercy only works if the enemy knows what mercy is. Laro said nothing. New ships inbound, someone shouted. Large group, bigger than before. A massive fleet of raiders was coming in fast. Revenge for their fallen comrades. The council panicked. We can't survive another wave. But Earth's fleet was already moving. No hesitation. No fear. Kyle stood beside Laro and looked up at the scanner. Good. We'll show them what help really looks like. To be continued in Part 4. What humanity learned the hard way. What humanity learned. The hard way. The warning lights in the command tower flashed red. On the large central screen, the new raider fleet approached like a swarm of darkness. There were more than 50 ships, twice the size of the first wave, and their weapons were already powered up. The council broke into shouting. We must surrender, one cried. They'll destroy everything, another screamed. But Laro remained still. He looked at the scanner, then at the calm human team preparing outside. Kyle stood with his arms behind his back, watching the sky. His voice was firm. Let them come. Laro turned toward him. There are more of them this time. Kyle nodded. Good. That saves us the trouble of tracking them later. The human ships rose like shadows into the sky, falling into a tight formation. Unlike the raiders, there was no panic or wild movement. Earth's ships moved like chess pieces, every ship in position, every turn deliberate. Laro approached Kyle again, confused but amazed. Why aren't you afraid? They outnumber you. Kyle glanced down at him. We've fought worse. Humanity didn't survive because we were lucky. We survived because we learned. He paused. We used to believe peace could save everyone. But we learned, sometimes peace needs a shield. Laro frowned. You mean weapons? No, Kyle replied. Preparedness, strength, a willingness to act. As the raiders came into range, Earth's ships didn't wait. A command was given. A new kind of ship emerged, sleek, faster, quieter. It shimmered as if cloaked in thin light. These weren't regular ships, these were Earth's prototypes. The council inside the tower gasped. What are those? Laro replied softly. Earth's secret weapons. Each prototype launched energy pulses that didn't explode, but vanished into the raider ships. A second later, those enemy ships lost power completely, drifting helpless in space. The Earth fleet didn't need to destroy. They disabled. The raiders responded by firing everything they had. But Earth's ships moved faster. Drones intercepted. Missiles. Shields absorbed beams. New tech bent the light around Earth ships, making them hard to lock onto. Laro couldn't look away. "It's not just strength," he whispered. "It's precision, training, timing." Kyle's voice came through the comm. "We didn't come to conquer. We came to end the fight before it starts." Down below, Laro followed Kyle through the chaos of the colony's lower zone. Civilians were being led to safety. Human soldiers worked side by side with colony guards, patching holes, powering down unstable buildings. "You've done this before," Laro said. Kyle didn't deny it. "Earth has been answering calls like yours for years, quietly, without fanfare. We don't broadcast it. We just do what has to be done." "Why not tell the galaxy?" Kyle looked toward the burning sky. "Because they wouldn't understand. They'd call us dangerous, violent. Maybe we are, but we only show our weapons when others leave us no choice." Another explosion lit up the horizon. One of the remaining raider cruisers tried to crash into the colony. Earth's lead ship intercepted it mid-air, ramming into the cruiser at full speed. Both ships fell, but only one exploded. Laro stared at the fireball. They gave their lives. Kyle's voice was quiet. "Every member of our fleet is ready to make that choice for people they've never met." Back in the tower, silence fell. The second raider fleet was no more. Not one ship escaped. The Earth fleet hovered like silent sentinels over Reala 4. The council stood in silence, no longer shouting. One of them finally spoke. "What kind of people do this without asking for anything in return?" Laro answered, "The kind that lost too much to ever let it happen again." To be continued in Part 5. The Second Wave. The second wave. The smoke hadn't cleared when another alarm echoed across the command tower. Laro's heart sank. "Again?" he whispered. The scanners didn't lie. Another fleet was inbound, twice as large as the last. This wasn't just a raid anymore. It was a full-scale invasion. The council panicked once more, but this time Laro didn't. He turned toward the window and watched the humans prepare. Kyle stood calmly, reviewing the sky data on a glowing wrist panel. He didn't flinch. "So, they've brought their real force this time." Laro stepped closer. "You expected this?" Kyle gave a small nod. "Raiders always test the waters first. When they lose, they send everything next." The Earth ships began shifting again. But this time it was different. New ships that hadn't moved before were now activating. They were sleek, black, and nearly silent. Unlike the others, these didn't have standard weapon ports. Instead, they shimmered with fields of energy. "They're using new tech," Kyle said. "These are adaptive ships, designed for threats we haven't even seen yet." The council watched nervously as Earth's formation reshaped itself. A curved line of ships positioned to protect the colony, while others moved forward like hunters preparing to strike. From the lead Earth ship came a short message. "Engaging final protocol. Phantom net." Suddenly, thin lines of glowing blue light stretched between several Earth ships. The network formed a massive web above the planet. "What is that?" asked one council member. Kyle answered plainly, "A trap." As the enemy ships entered the system, they flew directly into the web. The phantom net activated, ripping through space-time like scissors through cloth. Raider ships began to break apart mid-flight, torn apart by invisible forces. Others were caught in stasis fields, frozen in time. But some ships managed to break through and headed straight for the colony. Kyle turned to his team. Ground positions, defensive layer 2. More Earth soldiers deployed. Mechs rolled out from underground storage. Portable plasma turrets unfolded across the colony walls. Laro watched in awe. Earth hadn't just brought ships. They had brought a fortress. As the raiders descended, they were met by a wall of firepower. Earth's weapons didn't just fire, they adapted. Each shot recalibrated, each strike more accurate than the last. The colony shook with the thunder of the battle, but inside the wall, civilians were safe. A massive raider ship crashed near the Eastern District. Kyle and his squad ran toward it without hesitation. Laro followed, staying low behind debris. He watched Kyle leap into the burning wreck, pulling out 2 trapped colonists with his own hands. The colony's guards stood still, watching the humans work. One of them said, "They don't even know our names. Why do they care?" Laro answered, "Because Earth remembers what it felt like. To call for help and hear nothing." After the last raider fell, silence returned. The second wave was over. The battlefield was filled with wreckage, but no raiders remained. Kyle stood atop a crushed raider ship, scanning the sky. Laro approached. "Is it over?" Kyle didn't smile. "For now." "But why risk so much?" Laro asked. "You didn't even know us." Kyle looked him in the eyes. "We don't wait until we know someone to protect them. We act because we remember how it felt to be alone." He turned toward the stars. "And we made a promise to ourselves. No one else suffers like we did. Not while Earth still has strength to stand." To be continued in Part 6. The Reckoning. The Reckoning. The battlefield above Reala 4 was filled with silence, an eerie quiet that came only after destruction. Broken raider ships drifted like dead metal leaves. The stars beyond were dimmed by the debris. Earth's fleet remained in orbit, still in perfect formation. Not a single ship had fallen. Inside the colony, recovery had already begun. Earth's medics worked non-stop, patching wounds and restoring systems. Human engineers moved like clockwork, rebuilding what had taken the raiders days to destroy in hours. But even as the fires died down, the fear remained. The Galactic Council had finally responded to the earlier SOS. A diplomatic envoy messaged the colony asking for a full report and clarification. Laro listened quietly as the council replied, their voices full of shame. "No. Help is no longer required." Earth answered the call. Later that night, under the dull red glow of the emergency lights, Laro sat with Kyle near a silent crater where the last raider ship had fallen. "I didn't think we'd survive," Laro said. "I thought we'd be wiped away like dust." Kyle checked his gear, his expression unreadable. "Most do, until they see what humanity brings." Laro looked up. "That fleet, your ships, they didn't hesitate." "We don't have the luxury of hesitation," Kyle replied. "When you grow up on a world like ours, you learn to strike first, to protect fast, to end battles before they start." Laro was quiet for a moment, then asked, "And if the council had responded instead of you?" Kyle glanced sideways. "They'd have held a meeting, voted, debated for days. By then you'd be ash." There was no hate in his words, only truth. As they spoke, the final cleanup began. Earth soldiers collected the remaining raider, tech, and destroyed it. No weapons were salvaged, no samples kept. They left nothing behind that could be used again. Suddenly, Kyle's comm device buzzed. A deep voice crackled through. "High command to field captain. New priority distress call, coordinates received, prepare for jump." Kyle stood up immediately. He tapped his team's network. "Get the fleet ready. We're moving." Laro stood, too. "You're leaving already?" Kyle nodded. "Another world needs us. We don't stay longer than needed." Then without fanfare the ships lifted off. They didn't wave. They didn't wait for applause. They just vanished, into the stars. The people of Reala 4 gathered as the skies cleared. The stars shined again, unblocked by burning debris. A child tugged Laro's coat. "Who were they?" He smiled. "They were the ones who hurt us when no one else did." That night the council met one last time. They stood together on the rebuilt observation deck and watched the stars. No one spoke for a long while. Finally, one council member whispered, "Maybe Earth didn't change. Maybe we just never understood them." Laro nodded. "They don't come with promises. They come with purpose." To be concluded in Part 7. The Legacy of Earth's Response. The legacy of Earth's response weeks had passed since the last raider ship fell. The fires were gone. The wounds were healing. And Riala 4 stood tall again, scarred, but stronger. The colony was no longer silent. Children laughed in the fields. Again. Engineers rebuilt power cores. Farmers replanted the fields that had been burned. But something had changed. Not just the buildings, not just the systems, the people. They remembered the ships that came from the dark, the fleet that moved, like a blade through the stars, the humans who didn't promise hope, but delivered it anyway. The Galactic Council finally sent a proper envoy. He arrived in a smooth silver cruiser, draped in robes, surrounded by assistants and translators. He gave long speeches, offered supplies, and promised to investigate the delays in their earlier response. But the colonists weren't interested. Laro stood before the envoy, his voice calm but firm. You sent words. Earth sent warriors. The envoy tried to argue, to explain, to shift blame, but the crowd wasn't listening. Their eyes weren't on the robes or polished boots. Their eyes were on the empty sky, where black warships once hovered silent and protective. A monument was built in the colony square. Not a statue, not a flag, just a slab of black stone with a single line engraved in silver. Help was requested. Earth sent its battle fleet. Below it, smaller words. They didn't come to conquer. They came because no one else would. Each day, visitors stood before that stone. Some were survivors. Some were travelers. Others were soldiers from other species who had heard whispers across the galaxy. Whispers of the humans who didn't wait for permission. Who answered calls with action, not talk. The legend of Earth's response spread across the stars. In distant systems, when distress calls were sent, leaders began to ask a new question. Did Earth hear it? Because if Earth did, then the enemy had a reason to fear. Back on Riala 4, Laro continued to serve in the command tower. He helped rebuild the scanners, upgraded the defense grid, and trained the next generation to be ready. But every so often, he would look up at the sky and wonder where the humans had gone, what battle they were fighting next, what colony they were saving. One evening, a young technician asked him, "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Laro smiled, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I hope not." The boy looked confused. "Why?" "Because if Earth comes back," Laro said, looking up at the stars, "it means someone's in danger again." And that was the legacy Earth left behind. Not just strength, not just victory, but a promise. The stars will never be silent again because Earth is listening.